Hello everyone, my name is Rustam Muftahov. Welcome to Tuazama Universal Leadership Academy course on project management. I'm a project manager with 5 years of experience. I have a master's degree in engineering project management from University of Manchester and Prince 2 certification. And today we are going to talk about change management as project. We are going to cover the crucial aspects of change management in projects, like managing scope creeps, addressing stakeholder concerns, adapting to evolving requirements. Uh, so, let's, without further ado, dive deep into it. Change management, why is it necessary? Well, basically, we talked before about different phases of the project, like initiation, planning, execution, closure. Uh, and planning initiation are crucial aspects, like we discussed. But just simply because projects do not exist in a vacuum and there are external and internal factors that happen during time, uh, it is almost always that something has to be changed. And this change can have a very serious impact for the project, and without proper technique, without proper framework, it will be impossible. Well, it will be possible, but you will suffer from the inability to plan your response correctly. And change management is such a framework. It encompasses processes, tools, and techniques used to manage the transition from a current state to a desired future state within a project. Uh, And change management is about planning and communication, stakeholder engagement, risks assessment and mitigation, monitoring and evaluation. At first, I want to discuss with you the basic steps of change management. This is a Prince 2 methodology and the basic steps for addressing change control. We have steps that are defined as capture, assess, propose, decide, and implement. On the top, we have the project board to change authority. Basically, it means someone or something that is responsible for approving changes and your solution to such changes. And below, we have the daily log or issue register. That is some kind of documentation where you are going to keep track of change that you are implementing for the project. The first step of capture is about determining the issue that you are facing. After that, you are going to assess the impact of this issue, how it is going to impact project objectives, business case, and you need to determine its priority. After that, you are going to after the advice from project board, if this is necessary, you are going to identify options that you have, evaluate them, and provide a recommendation to decide on. During the decision phase, you are going to receive an approval from project board if necessary. This is called an escalation. And after that, you are going to go through with the recommended option to the implementation phase, or you are going to reject it and work on something else. Yeah, minimum requirements for change. So a change control approach should minimally cover the technique for issues, how they identified and managed. On assessing the impact, you should have defined roles and responsibilities for change control. For example, you can be the one who decides and approves the changes, or you can escalate it to project board. You can be the one who identifies issue, or you can delegate it to the project team. So basically, you need to decide what works best at this project exactly. Product baselines, we're going to talk about it later. You need to do the issue register documentation, and you need to make sure that this approach is throughout the project life cycle. Okay. Why change management is important? You reduce your negative risk by being able to respond quickly, by being prepared to change. You mitigate potential negative risks associated with changes. You improve project outcomes and reduce the likelihood of costly delays of rework. Enhanced stakeholder buy-in. What that means? It is very important when you're working on a project to establish a good communication canal with your stakeholders, as we discussed previously. And by having a good communication canal, by having increased involvement of them in your project, by allowing them to propose change, by allowing them to chip in, not only do you enhance their buy-in, which basically means they are more involved with the project, you gain their trust, you allow them to collaborate, that increases project success. You ensuring that way that the quality of your project is to the desire of your stakeholders. Increased project flexibility. We discussed before that, for example, waterfall project management is very flexible, or is not very flexible at all, I'm sorry. And agile project management is very flexible, but regardless, project flexibility is necessary, especially in the modern world, because everything around us changes very fast. And by having a framework that allows you to adapt to these changes, to allow shift to the market needs, you ensure that you remain relevant. Because we don't want the situation where you implemented the project and it turns out that it is not necessary for anyone. And these situations, unfortunately, also happen. I can give you a wonderful example of Parliament House in Scotland, in Edinburgh. It was a notoriously difficult project to ensure, to do. It faced severe cost overruns and delays. And the issue was it was started to be put into construction in the late 2000, at the time where in the Western world the fight for terrorism, for safety was on the rise, and to ensure that the increased and changed needs of stakeholders, of members of the parliament, of the Scotland government, to ensure the safety, they need to reshape the whole project as a whole, right? And that was met with severe backlash, delays, and overruns. If this project had a more robust change management, they will be able to adapt to the changes more quickly and decrease project overruns. And improved communication collaboration is something that ties into enhanced stakeholder buy-in. So, what is scope creep and why it happens? Scope creep is something that, for example, you start your project, you establish a baseline. Baseline is the set of parameters of your project, what your basically KPI, key performance indicators for the project are needed. What are the quality criteria, right? And after you started going through with the project, these things changed, because when you started doing it, it turns out that you need to do this. And this stems from unclear requirements. You rushed into the project without establishing requirements incomplete. You didn't make sure that there is no misunderstanding and revisions. And when you started doing the project, it turns out there was a miscommunication, the requirements were clear enough. Lack of stakeholder buy-in, as we just established earlier, you may be able to establish your scope, your baseline, but you didn't involve your stakeholders that much. And when you started implementing the project, it turned out that it is not exactly what they expected, right? And that caused scope creep, because now you need to adapt to the changes that they propose. Unrealistic deadlines is a chronic pain of all project managers, because people want their things to be done fast, done quickly, and to the increased quality. And while quality is a complicated metric for everybody, and money questions are always hard to discuss. Deadlines is something that people very eager to understand, and what people always want to control the most because they understand it the most. And that results in people setting unrealistic deadlines for the project and rushing it without taking into account the iron triangle principle that we talked about previously. And by rushing the deadlines, you increase the risk of reduced quality, you increase the risk of budget overruns, and unforeseen challenges arise due to the resource constraints and so on. And unforeseen circumstances, so-called, for example, black swan events such as COVID-19 pandemic, political situation, and so on. They also happen. Nobody can predict them, but unfortunately, projects have to go on, and that results in scope creep. What can you do when you are faced with a scope creep? You At the initiation and planning phase, you need to establish change management process. If you are interacting with your customers and they keep saying you, I want this car to be blue, then I want this car to be yellow, then I want this car to be green, you are not going to do anything except changing the color of the car, right? But if you have an established change management process, okay, customer comes to you, I want my car to be red, you can say to them, no problem, please submit this form, please let's go to the whole review, let's get it approved, let's make sure that we have the budget for this, and let's make sure that we are not going to shift our deadline. And you can even come to the realization that the client doesn't even want this change due to the implication it has to the project. That's why a formal change management is necessary. Clear communication, this is something that you can safely say is important in every aspect of project management to make sure that there is no misunderstanding. And you also need to ensure that all stakeholders are well informed as you decided and as it is beneficial for everyone. Realistic timelines. Look, as a project manager, just make sure that if you are asking for a timeline, if you're asked for a timeline, have a little bit of a wiggle room, right? Make sure that, for example, if you think you can do this job in a week, say that you will need 2 weeks, because the client may want to reduce your timeline to show control, and it is a good thing if he is involved in the project. And two, if you are managed to do the deadline earlier, that's good, and it shows you as an effective project manager. And resource allocation is making sure that you have the money and people to do the change, and making sure that there are no resource constraints. So basically, for example, you don't have a situation where the change management procedure has stopped because people have to work on something else, or you don't have necessary materials. You want to ensure the smooth operation of everything. Stakeholder analysis, yes, it's again about stakeholder management. You need to identify them, you need to analyze their needs, you need to make sure that the engagement strategies that you put in place are good. We talked about it in the sense that, for example, you need to establish with the project board that you are talking with them, for example, every week, and you want to talk to the media every month, and you want to talk with your user team 2 times a week to ensure that everything is going smoothly. And this is going to change from project to a project, and you need to be able to address these things. And managing expectations, this is also about project management doing his job in communicating how the project is going, making sure that everybody is satisfied with how the project is going, and making sure that everybody is on the same page and they are going to receive the results that they have been promised and they have understood correctly. How can you address stakeholder concerns effectively? You need to listen to them. You need to encourage communication. You need to foster open dialogue environment. You need to allow stakeholders to express their concerns. You need to be able to let the stakeholders in your process and emphasize understanding and compromise. And by that, I don't mean to just open the door and go to say to stakeholders, okay, come in, you can go. No, it is your job as a project manager to ensure that your project team is not affected by it. It is making sure that you are acting as an intermediary, as a liaison between the business and the project team, and ensuring that their concerns, stakeholder concerns, are approved and met without affecting the project implementation phase. And you also need to be transparent and accountable. You need to always be clear about your process, how the project is going, to build trust, to making sure that people can communicate with you freely about all the concerns that they are having. Right. So how can we adapt to the requirements that we're having? Firstly, you will need to do prioritization, right? This is on the assess phase. You need to make sure that after you recognized all the changes that you are potentially going to face, which ones are more important, which ones are going to be addressed first. And this is similar to the risk management, where you are going to assign priority. You also need to assign priority to changes. And right from the start, I got this question. This is a very good question. What is the difference between change and risk? Risk is something that can happen and you need to be prepared for. You need to have a response plan to it. And change is something that is happening and that is directly affecting the results of your project, right? And that is something that you are doing by yourself. And risk is caused by external factors or maybe internal factors that you need to adapt. You need to implement changes in phases or increments and allow for testing, feedback, and adjustments, because you should not be doing changes just for the sake of change. You need to make sure that change is still needed, and you need to make sure that the feedback is provided for everything. Version control is about the baselines and is about maintaining initial phase and scope. And that is something, why is it needed? You need to be able to refer to all the changes that you did. You need to be able to provide the baseline explanation for your clients. This is about clear communication and stakeholder interaction, right? You need to be able to show what exactly did you do and why did you do it. And because this increases your accountability and this increases your transparency, you need to be able to have the tools to answer the questions of the people. We're going to skip case study. You can learn on it by yourself. Let's move on to agile change management. First of all, a few words about agile. Agile is a new project management technique, well, relatively new. It's emerged in 2000s in response to the traditional waterfall management, and its aim was to solve the rigid planning of waterfall and to increase the flexibility of project management, right? Instead of rigid plans, agile is about going iteratively, working in so-called established time frames called sprints, and changing on the go. Change is something that is at the core of Agile, and you are changing every sprint, making sure that expectations are met continuously. That is what makes Agile unique, and that is what has proven itself especially good in software development because of its increased flexibility and instability and rapid progression, including technological progression of the market. In agile change management, you need to receive a frequent feedback. As I talked about before, sprints are very important, and you need to be able to make sprints as small as possible to receive feedback frequently. And it is your job as a project manager or a Scrum Master, as it is sometimes called in one of the agile methodologies, Scrum, to prioritize these changes and to implement them without causing the collapse of your project management process, right? Yeah, so effective change management is essential for navigating the dynamic nature of project environments, to ensure project success, to maximize value delivery, and by implementing proactive change management strategies, engaging stakeholders effectively, and adapting to evolving requirements, project teams can navigate challenges and deliver impactful results. And I want to dedicate the rest of this work talking about a little bit more about the framework. So change. Change is about identification, assessment, control of potential approved changes to the project baselines, and change control procedure. We talked about it already. We also talked about roles and responsibilities, that it is important to assign roles and responsibilities within change management. Who is responsible for what? Who is responsible for approval? Who is responsible for feedback? Who is responsible for implementing? You need to have defined change control procedure, defined authorities, defined baselines at the initiation and project phase, and you need to have defined issues first to implement change. Types of issues in Prince2 methodology, at least, they are divided into requests for change. There's a typo here, I'm sorry about that. A request for change is something that a client can submit that can be reviewed and implemented if that is deemed beneficial for the final quality of the project. Off specification is something that you meet by yourself during the implementation of the project that causes you to implement something that was not in the baseline, right? You need to implement something new, and this is an off specification. And problem or concern that is close to risk, basically something happened and now it became a change and now you need to adapt to it, right? This is what problem or concern is. Documents. Documents are very important in all change management procedure, as in any product management techniques. And at least you should be able to have the identified change control approach. You should have issue register where you are keeping track of all issues that are identified, and you need to have the issue report. Basically, what has been done, how everything is doing, how you're going to solve it. So issue register is the everything in once, where you hold all your issues, and issue report is the response to every particular issue. Daily log, this is not strictly change management document. This is basically recordings of all the activities that you are doing on the project, just like an archive. This is, in my experience, a very difficult document because you need to basically put down all of your steps. And depending on your organization and your level of authority, it is very difficult to isolate time for such an activity. But it can be beneficial for you, especially on a small projects, to basically start thinking as a project manager, right? What do I need to do to make the project successful? Configuration item record. This is baseline document for keeping track of how different aspects of your project changed over time. And product status account, this is like an overall thing for your project, how it was changed from the baseline. But in my opinion and in my experience, minimum requirement is more than enough for a robust change document, because guys, documents are very important, obviously, in project management. You need to be able to trace your steps, you need to be able to control everything, but project management should not be about documents. A lot of projects fail because people are too focused on sitting at the desk and looking at the Excel templates or PowerPoint templates or Microsoft project plans or whatever, without so-called boots on the ground, right? Without establishing how everything is actually going. Documents are important, but they should not be done at the cost of actually doing the project, actually communicating with stakeholders, actually managing your team, right? So keep that in mind, please. Okay, I think we talked about change control. In this lecture, we have a lot of case studies, a lot of videos, a lot of external reading. Please address it. I think it will be beneficial for you. And I want to remind you that in other lectures, we are talking about project management lifecycle. And in another lecture, we are talking about advanced project management techniques. So basically, this is about agile project management, Scrum in more detail. And also different project management tools, such as Microsoft Project, Asana, Trello, basically how you are doing your day-to-day management. Thank you very much, and have a good study. I wish you luck.